There's a certain kind of woman that makes people uncomfortable. Not because she is dangerous, not because she has done anything wrong, but because she refuses to be quiet. She laughs too loudly. She takes up too much space. She says things that were never meant to be said out loud. At least, not by someone who looks like her. And society, in its long and exhausting tradition, finds a way to deal with her. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's shame. And sometimes it's something far more permanent. The case I'm walking you through is the honor killing of Qandeel Baloch. And this is the death lore. She created a persona, Qandeel Baloch, a name she chose for herself, a face she presented to the internet, to the cameras, to a Pakistan that had never quite seen anything like her. She posted videos regularly, the bold ones, the unapologetic ones. She wore what she wanted. She said what she thought. She also flirted, performed, and challenged. And she did all of it with a smile that suggested she knew exactly what she was doing. And Pakistan noticed. Some people loved her. Some people loved her. They followed her, and they even shared her videos. They saw in her something rare, a woman who seemed genuinely, most aggressively free. Others were furious. The comment sections were not kind. They were not even civil. They were the kind of rage you see when someone breaks an unspoken rule that everyone else has been quietly following their whole lives. She was called shameless. She was called a disgrace. She was called things I won't repeat here. And Qandeel received all of it and kept posting anyways. Here is what people tend to forget about her though. She was not simply a provocateur. She was a woman who was trying to survive. In the interviews she gave, she spoke openly about wanting financial independence, about wanting to provide her family, about having tried other plans and finding them closed. She had auditioned for Pakistan Idol. She had even tried modeling. She had looked for work the conventional way. And when those doors did not open wide enough, she found her own door. That is not a scandal. That is resourcefulness. But resourcefulness in a woman, especially a woman who looks like she's enjoying herself, can read as provocation to people who need her to be suffering. By 2016, she was arguably the most talked about woman in Pakistan. She had millions of followers. Brands were reaching out to her. Journalists wanted interviews. She had become something genuinely rare in the media landscape. A working class woman from a village who had built her own platform entirely on her own terms. She also began using the platform differently. She started speaking about women's rights, about the way women were treated online, and about harassments, about the gap between what Pakistan claims to be and what women in Pakistan actually experienced. She became, without entirely planning to, political. And that is when the situation became more complicated. In the summer of 2016, she was photographed with Mufti Abdul Kavi, a prominent cleric and a member of a government moon sighting committee. The photos circulated widely. Qandeel had taken them herself and shared them. In one, he was wearing her hat. In another, they were posing together. The images caused immediate uproar. Kavi was suspended from the committee. He denied the nature of the meeting. The story changed several times depending on who was telling it. Qandeel, for her part, said she was exposing hypocrisy. The powerful men who publicly condemned the women like her were privately seeking them out. Whether that was the full story, a partial story, or something entirely different is something the audience can sit with. What is confirmed is that the aftermath was significant, and the threats towards her increased. In interviews before her death, she had said she was receiving messages that people wanted to hurt her, and she was afraid. She asked for protection, but the state did not approve it. On the night of July 15th, 2016, Qandeel Baloch was drugged and strangled in a family home in Multan. She was approximately 26 years old. Her brother, Wasim Azim, confessed to the killing. His words were reported widely. He said he had no regrets. He said she had brought shame to the family. He said he had done what needed to be done. I would like to pause here for a moment, because that phrase, what needed to be done, is doing a great deal of work. It contains an entire architecture of belief. A belief that a woman's body, a woman's choice, and a woman's public existence belongs to her family before it belongs to her. That shame is a transferable thing. That it can live in a woman's laughter, in her videos, in the way she poses in a photograph. And that the family has not just the right, but the obligation to end it. That is not a fringe belief in certain parts of the world. It is infrastructure. The case went to trial. Wasim was convicted of murder in 2019. He was sentenced to life in prison. But here is the complication. Under Pakistani law at that time, the family of a murder victim could pardon the killer. And in case of honor killings, this created a mechanism through which the perpetrators could walk free. Because the family that was meant to seek justice was often the family that had sanctioned the killing. In Qandeel's case, her parents initially said they forgive their son. There were amendments to the law in 2016, passed notably in the months after Qandeel's death, partly in response to public outcry over her case, that made honor killings non-compoundable, meaning they could no longer be pardoned by the family alone. Wasim remained convicted. But the case exposed something that a law change alone could not fix. After her death, something interesting happened. The conversation about Qandeel shifted. People who once called her shameless began calling her brave. Articles were written, documentaries were made. Her story was told in film festivals, in international press, and in academic papers. She became, in death, the icon she was never fully allowed to be in her life. And I think it's worth sitting with, because it raises a question about what we do with women when they are still alive. We are often very good at mourning them, but we are less consistent about protecting them. There's one more thing. The man she photographed, Mufti Abdul Kavi, was questioned in connection with the case. He was considered a suspect for a period, but he denied involvement, and he was never charged. He has since returned to public life. Before we close, I want to ask you some questions. Not rhetorical ones, but the real ones. The kind that don't have clean answers. If Qandeel had been a man doing exactly what she did, building an audience, being provocative, being loud, being seen, would the word shameless have ever come up? When we call a woman's choice shameful, who are we exactly protecting? When a state fails to provide protection to a woman who explicitly asks for it, and that woman is then killed, what do we call that? Negligence? Complicity? Or something else? When we celebrate a woman in death for the same things we punished her for in life, what does that tell about the nature of the celebration? And finally, how many women right now are being quiet because they have seen what happens to the one who aren't? You are listening to Between the Lures, a segment by the Death Lore. Follow for more such cases and stay alive and sane until we meet again with the next episode of the Death Lore, where we will be continuing the tragedy of Arushi Talwar's murder in the part 2 of the same case. This has been the Death Lore.